Welcome to this EMSWeb training session. In this session, we're going to be talking about documents. The main points that we want to discuss are the File Explorer tab, where we have the ability to create folders, upload documents, edit, and delete documents. Then we have the Query tab, which is used for searching for particular documents, as well as the document tracking function. This function is used to set up a system where the user can define what documents they want to track and have the installations or child organizations respond with keeping those documents up to date. And we'll show an example of that. All of the topics we're discussing in this section can be found with written guidance under the EMSWeb sitemap and guidance. This link is found on the right-hand side of most EMSWeb pages. Once you click on EMSWeb sitemap and guidance, scroll down under the Documents section, and there will be individual file links for the File Explorer, the Query, and document tracking. Each one will export a Word document discussing those issues. So in EMSWeb, we are looking at the Naval Station Atlantis organization. This is our test area. And here users can add, edit, and delete information without any issues. So that's what we're going to be using for this training session. So documents is one of the most heavily used functions within EMSWeb. As of the time of this training session, EMSWeb users have uploaded over 160,000 documents. So the EMSWeb users have full capability to create their own document folder structure. So it's just like on your own computer. You can create folders and subfolders, and then you can upload documents to any of those folders. So we're going to go through the exercise of creating a folder and subfolder. So from the Documents tab, you'll automatically go to the File Explorer and then click on the Add Folder button. And so it's going to expand into a text box, and you just put in the name of the folder that you want. So I'm just going to say Example Training Folder, and click the green plus. So then you can see that it has created this folder. So I'm going to click into it. And in this folder, there's currently nothing. And so in here, you can go ahead and create subfolders. So I'm going to say this is training subfolder. And so then if I wanted to, I could click into this and add documents into that subfolder or into this example training folder. So to add a document, there are actually several ways of doing so. The first one is to use this Upload Document button. The main advantage of using this button is that you have access to all of the fields that can be tied to this document. So to upload a document, first select the file from your computer. So if you open up Select File, then it's going to open up a very familiar window. So this is the same one that's used on your computer whenever you search for documents or open up things from your Start menu. So I am going to go over to a previously made folder on my computer, and I'm going to select this example document. So this is a declaration of conformance by NAS Meridian. So you have the document name, but then the name that you want to have displayed in the in EMSWeb can be different. So if you wanted to, you could shorten up the name, you could remove this PDF prefix and do anything else you want. You can add in a description. You know, this was the FY19 signed Declaration of Conformance, or anything else descriptive to help you along. None of these fields are mandatory. All you need to upload a document is the document itself. Everything else, all of the other fields are voluntary to put in. These are here to help you so that you can more easily later categorize and find the documents that you upload into EMSWeb. As you can imagine, if there are 160,000 documents in EMSWeb, that it can be hard to immediately find the document that you are looking for. So to aid in this, we have document categories set up. So in this drop-down menu, you have a series of pre-made documents. So you can specify which one belongs for this particular document. So the ones with an arrow next to it indicates that there are subcategories that you can choose from. So I'm going to click on the down arrow next to the EMS documents. Whoops. And then it comes up with the subcategories. So the one I'm interested in is the EMS Declaration of Conformance. And so the advantage to doing this is that if I tag this file with the EMS Declaration of Conformance category, then I can go back later and say, okay, for my installation, show me all of my Declaration of Conformance documents, and then it's right there. If you're tracking the status of the document, whether it's a draft, approved, you know, or if it's final, unless you're going through a process where you're reviewing and tracking documents in the EMSWeb, you usually leave it blank and they're all assumed to be final documents. Other items that you can tag to this is media. So you can tag it as related to environmental management. The idea here is most information throughout EMSWeb can be tagged by media, and then makes it easier if you're searching by that particular media. And so other information that you may want to populate is if it belongs to a particular ISO 14001 element, if there's a regulating entity involved, a specific citation. Usually those two fields aren't used very often. The original issue date can be helpful, as well as retention, how long you want to keep it active. A review date, if this is like a permit or something along those lines, then you may want to set up a date to review it before it expires, and the expiration date can be added in as well. So all of that are optional fields that you can populate, and you click on Save Document once you fill out all of the fields that you want to. So then once we get to there, we come to the profile view of this document that we've uploaded. And we can see that here's all the information we entered in, as well as who created and uploaded this document and when. We'll come back to this profile. I want to go back to File Explorer. You can see that there's a link here for the folder that this file belongs to. So I'm just going to open this up into a new tab, and I can do that by right-clicking on any hyperlink in the EMSWeb. Then I have the option of opening it up in a new tab or a new window. And since I'm going to come back to this page, I'm going to open this up in a new tab. So we're back in the example training folder, and you can see here is the file that I uploaded. Now, there are a couple of other easy ways to upload files, especially if you are not interested in populating any of the voluntary fields. So in this window here, I have open for my computer is a folder with some documents I previously put in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this NAS China Lake P2 plan. I'm going to left click and hold the button down. So I'm going to drag this file and I'm going to move it over to the top portion of the documents page. So right below the documents title and above the documents table. So in between there, I can drop a file. So once I let go of the file here, then it's going to upload it. So this document, the documents area in EMSWeb has this drag and drop capability. So you can see it's been uploaded. It was 3 megabytes large, and you'll notice that it does not have any of the voluntary information like the category on it. It does automatically record who drag and dropped that folder and when into this area. So that's very convenient for uploading files when you don't want to fill out the voluntary fields. You can just as easily select multiple files and drag and drop them into EMSWeb as well. The third way of moving files over is by zip document. So on your computer, you have the capability of creating zip files, and you do that just by right-clicking on highlighting a series of documents, one or more, and you can do that by clicking on the first document, holding down the Shift button, and clicking the last document, and it will highlight everything between the first and last one. Right-click on it, and then all NMCI computers should have WinZip installed, so you just look for the WinZip and go to add the WinZip file. And then I'll add all of the selected files to WinZip and create a single zip file. So I've done this for this sample document zip file, and inside of here we have 3 separate documents in here. They happen to be the written guidance documents for File Explorer query and document tracking. And so once I have a zip file, I can go back to EMSWeb and I can click on Upload Zip Archive. So just like before, I can select the files. So I'm going to select my zip file and click on Open. So it's going to upload it to EMSWeb. And then the main difference between this and drag and dropping is that you can also tag all of the files that you are uploading through a zip file with a document category and the media. So if I wanted to, I could say that these are all, let's see, I'll label them as training documents, and that they belong to, let's see, environmental management media. and then I'm going to click on Upload. So what EMSWeb is going to do is it's going to upload that zip document to the folder I was in, unzip it, and then I have the 3 documents that resided in that zip file, and it's been unzipped and placed into that folder. They've all been put into the same training category, and they've all been linked to that media that I specified. So various different ways of uploading documents to make it more convenient and easier for you. Now, once you create or upload a document, you can click on it and go to the document profile. And that has some additional functions and abilities on that file. So one thing you can do is you can deactivate this file. So if I deactivate it, it hides it from view. So it no longer shows up on the File Explorer folder, it no longer shows up on the query, and it can't be linked to or downloaded. So for all intents and purposes, for the casual user, it is gone. You can search for deactivated documents, and if you want it gone for good permanently, there is a delete button. So if I click on that, then it irrevocably takes it off of the server. So I'm going to go back to the example training folder. And so now that document I deleted is gone. If I had just deactivated it, it would still be missing from this view. So I'm going to go back to this declaration of conformance and go back to the profile. And so one thing that we do in EMSWeb is we allow for version control. So this allows you to upload another version of the same document. So you can upload this and select a different file. Okay, and let's, for the purpose of this demonstration, let's say this was redone in 19. Oops. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm uploading the same file, but okay, so I uploaded the NAS China Lake P2 plan, but if this was an updated version of the Declaration of Conformance, suppose this was the next Declaration of Conformance that was signed, then we could make this an updated version, and we set it as the current version. And so now whenever this document is downloaded, it always downloads the most current version. And it does it within the same profile, so you now have a running history of what the current version is and what all of the other previous versions were. Additionally, anytime that anyone uses a URL or a link to this document, whether it's in a custom content page or some other means, they will always go to the most current document. So you don't have to worry about readjusting anything that links to this document. And that does bring us to another point is, how do you share this document with other users? And so we have a download link here, so you can copy and paste that, and you can share that to other users. So if I gave that to another Naval Station Atlantis user, and they had access to documents, they would be able to use this URL and directly go and download this document. So that makes it very handy for sharing documents with other users within the same organization. Just as well, if I shared it with a user to the parent organization of Naval Station Atlantis, that user would also be able to download the document just by using this URL. However, if I shared it with a user that did not have access to Naval Station Atlantis, that URL would not work for them because unless you are in the direct hierarchy, a parent of Naval Station Atlantis, no one can see your information at Naval Station Atlantis. So, if that is the case where you do want to show this document to everybody, there is a way to do that. So if we go back to the folder and we edit the folder, we can say share this folder. And so we can change inherit to yes. Inherit means that it just assumes whatever value there is if there's a value from one of the parent organizations. And by default, they're all set to no. So if it's inherit, then it's pretty much no unless, someone upstream of your organization has set it. So if I set share this folder everywhere and save it, then any of the documents that you provide a URL to, any user will be able to get to and download. A couple of other things that you can do within the profile is, one is you can set up alerts. So we were talking about a situation where we have a document that expires after a certain amount of time. For example, your declaration of conformance expires after 3 years. Or you may have a permit that expires, in a set amount of time. So you can set up alerts for various fields within the document profile. So for example, this date field is the expiration date. So I can choose expiration or review date. Let's say there was a review date for this document. And then what I can do is I can set up an alert to fire off an email a specified amount of time before the review date happens. So let's say I want it for 30 days, and then I can change this to before the review date occurs. And I can set it up so it only fires off if it's a particular status, or if I leave it blank, it'll be any status. And then I can set it up to go to any person that is a user of EMSWeb. So in this case, I'm going to send it to myself. A reminder, this document needs review. And then a message as well. This document is going to needs to be reviewed in the next 30 days. And then you can save this alert, and then what that will do is 30 days before the review date, it will fire off an automated email with this information and a link to this document in the email. So if you're using some of the voluntary fields in the profile, this is a nice way to send out alerts to make sure that needed actions happens to it. The other thing that you can do within some of the options within the document profile is when you left click on this document icon, you can select folders. So you can see that the only folder here is the example training folder. So this is the folder that this document resides in. What you can do, however, is you can make this same document show up in multiple folders. And so depending upon how you're categorizing things within the way you're setting up your folders in File Explorer, you may have a document that shows up in multiple places. For example, this declaration of conformance folder you might have under a environmental management folder. You may also want to put it, if you created a folder specifically for external audit documents for your auditors, then you may want to put this declaration of conformance also in that folder. So you can select any existing folder, and if there's a right arrow, that means there's subfolders. But I'm going to also make this appear under the EMS folder that we've already created. So the same document now shows up under two separate folders. If you make any version control changes or you make any changes to the document profile, that will show up under both places. So I'll navigate back to the EMS folder, and we should now see that declaration of conformance document now showing up here. We also have the ability to move documents from one place to another. So if, instead of making it show up in multiple places, you're just moving it from one place to another. So you can select one or more. So I'm going to select these top three documents. I'm going to select Move Items. And then it's going to show me a list of all of the folders that I have available. So I can click into the folder that I want and then click Submit. And then it's going to move it from this current folder and move it into the folder that I selected. Now, it's possible to delete a folder. For example, if we go back to the folder that I created, so the example training folder, and let's say I want to go ahead and delete it. One thing we found out through hard experience is we don't want to delete folders that contain documents in it, because you may have a folder with subfolders and 50 documents in it, and you delete the folder and all those documents that were there can no longer be accessed. So because of this, we implemented a process rule where only folders that are empty can be deleted. So we have this training subfolder, and we never put any documents into it, and so you can see we have this delete function available. Okay, so there's always a "are you sure" type of message that pops up. If I say OK, then that training subfolder will be deleted. Now you can see that we got put back into the example training folder, and that we have 4 documents in here. And because of that, there is no delete button available. So if we wanted to delete this, we'd have to deactivate and delete all of these documents here. So I can do that quickly by selecting all of the documents. I can do that by marking all of the checkboxes individually, or I can go ahead and click on this icon at the top of the checkbox column. And so that either selects or deselects all of the documents here. Then I can deactivate all of them at once. And so once I deactivate them, you can see that the folder looks empty. And but it's not truly empty because it contains those 4 deactivated documents. And so if I click on the filter icon, change the inactive to yes, it will search for all of the deactivated documents. And so you can see that they're still here and they're marked deactivated. So now if I select them all again, I can delete them all permanently. And now I've deleted them all. So now when I come back to this example folder, you can see that I now have the delete button available. So now I can delete this example training folder because the folder does not contain any deactivated or active documents. So when we look at a folder, and so I will navigate to this pre-existing error folder, you can edit this folder, and you can change the name, you can change the media. So if I assign a particular media to it, then by default, any document in that folder or subfolder, all are tied to that media. So that's a quick and easy way of tagging documents with a specific media, especially if you set up a folder for a media like this error folder. And the other abilities are to share this folder with all users or to share this folder only with specific media users. So if I wanted to, I could mark that as yes. The other thing I can do on this in this folder is you can see that I have multiple subfolders. And these subfolders can contain other subfolders and documents in there. And sometimes it's tedious to try and find a specific file within all of these subfolders. So if I want to search only in this error folder and any of these subfolders, then I can click on Query this folder. And then I can search upon any of the fields related to that document. And in the table, it shows me all of the documents that belong to that folder or to that subfolder. And so then I can go ahead and search for any of them or look for it. So you can see that this media data entry form document belongs to a subfolder to the error folder. One last thing that I want to show you in File Explorer is that there is a pre-made folder that's available to every single installation. Okay, and that is called Oh, I'll amend that. It's available to every installation belonging to the Navy, so it doesn't belong to Naval Station Atlantis. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick a base. So for this example, I'm going to go ahead and select NSA Naples, and I'm going to go to their document area. So you can see that their folder structure looks much, much different because that's the way that they want to share or set up their folder structure. But every installation has this Navy shared folder. And this is kind of a free-for-all shared area where anyone can go in and upload files, and it will be available to all users, to all EMSWeb users. So the only difference between this folder area and all of the others is that you can't edit or change any of the folders or subfolders. So these are all pre-made. And then any document that you upload here can be downloaded by any other user, no matter where they are in the Navy. If you want to edit a document, only the organization that uploaded it can edit and delete the document. And so if you browse through these folders, you can see that we have pre-made subfolders. You can copy the URL for a specific folder, or if you navigate to a document, you can copy the URL for a specific document. You can email that around, and everyone will be able to get to it. So it's a very quick and easy way to share folders to any of the personnel around the Navy that has access to EMSWeb. Okay, so now I want to move over to the next tab being shown here, which is the Query tab. And so this looks exactly like the form that we used when we ran a query from within a folder. The only difference is that this shows you all of the documents within your installation. So we have at NSA Naples, we have 1,025 documents loaded up, and then I can quickly search for it on any type of information that's been tagged to those documents. So if I want to look at a particular media, then I can select the media and click on search. I can search for titles. So if I was looking for conformance documents, I could search for anything with that title. So here you can see there are two documents titled with conformance in the title. Or I can search for a specific category and so on. So depending upon whether your installation is in the habit of populating these voluntary fields or not, then you know what you can search on. Okay, so just like all other fields, you can also click on the title of this, so you can see, you can sort it by, here is the last updated, so from most current to least current, but you could also search by created date or by name and so on, just by clicking on the folder header. Okay, the next column is for workflows. And the concept behind here is that if you do some type of review process for documents, like a NEPA document that needs to go through a formal review, then you can set up specific steps that you want a review process to go through and define who needs to review it, how long they have, and what the next step is. And then once you create your how the workflow should go, then you can tag specific documents and say this document needs to go through a workflow. And so you would do that by, well, before I show you, let me go back to Atlantis. And so I'm going to pick a document from Atlantis. And I'm going to assume that we set up the workflow template so that all of the steps in the workflow process were defined. And if you want further guidance on that, you can find it under the EMSWeb sitemap and guidance. So you would pick the document that you're interested in, go to the workflow, and then you can see at the bottom of this document, information is add workflow. So here we have a workflow template already created. And so I'm going to assign it to that workflow and click on add. And then that will start the workflow process. So then you can define the due date and the who is supposed to go through the process. And it's all pre-populated from the document workflow. And then you would click on add workflow. And then you'll see that the main thing that's changed is you have a new tab here that says workflow and then the name of the workflow template that's being used, because you can create more than one workflow template. And then if you click on that subtab, it will give you all of the information on that workflow, what the current step is, who's supposed to do it, and so on. So it's just like a task. The person who's supposed to do it would come here, do what they needed to do, upload a new version if necessary, and then click on approve, and then it would go on to the next step. Another function that we have is document tracking. And so this isn't a review process, but this is a way of defining what documents need to be collected from child organizations, and then tracking to make sure that to see the status of if they've uploaded it or not and if it's current. So as an example, we're going to go to a document tracking that's been created by Region NDW. So I'm going to select that organization. I'm going to go to Documents and Document Tracking. So, so the way this works is the user would create specific document lists and define what documents are being requested within those lists. So if I look at these document lists, you can see that there are 4 different types of lists created: EMS manual, management review minutes, internal audit documentation, and internal audit plan. And then under the requested documents, you can add one or more document names that you are requesting underneath those lists. In this case, NDW has created one document per list. So when NDW comes to this document tracking or any of the organizations that have been tagged with that list, and you can see that there are 6 organizations that have been tagged to the EMS manual list. And so then when individuals at those installations go to document tracking, they can upload the document that's been requested, or they can download it, and then they can also mark it as reviewed so that the region personnel knows that it's current, and or they can upload additional versions. So you can see that this EMS manual has 5 different versions to it, but when you download it, it will download the most current version. So this is a quick way for either the region or the installation to keep track of very specific important documents and being able to make sure that they always have a current set of documents. So for each one of these management review plans, internal audit documentation, it's all the same. So if I went to one of these installations as a user, and so I'm going to go over to NSA Annapolis. So now I'm looking at the point of view from NSA Annapolis, and I'm going to go to document tracking under the document tab. And so then I can see under EMS manual, all I can see is the request being made from NSA Annapolis. I have the options of attaching a document from EMSWeb. So if the document that they're asking for, I've already uploaded it into the Documents File Explorer, then I can click on Attach Document from EMSWeb and then just select the already uploaded document. Or I can update the document from the computer. So if I have it on my personal NMCI computer, then I can upload a document directly from there and put it into this area. If I've already uploaded it, then I can also click on the document name to get to the profile and upload a new version. And then that will be reflected under the document tracking. So in this example, this document list was made at the region level and requested from the installation personnel. You could just as easily create a installation level document tracking list and just make that organization the only one that needs to respond to it. So that way you can create an installation specific document list if desired.